Hi class, here we have video 2 of the Shakespearean sonnets. This is where we're going to be practicing our scansion and our breakdown of both the rhyme scheme and the stanzas of the poem. This is always going to be your first step when you're accessing Shakespeare's sonnets because it helps us to give a sense of its structure, and that will help us better be able to access the language later. So I want you guys to watch and follow along, and then when you're done, it would be a good idea to mark up Sonnet 18 on your surface and then compare your version to my version to make sure that you kind of have things down straight. This is going to help us for later practice. After we're done with this video, we're going to move on to video 3 where we're really going to look at then the language and the meaning of the poem. So take a look and let's start. So first and foremost, we want to think about the structural breakdown of the poem, and we know that it's broken down into certain types of stanzas. Here we have 3 quatrains and a couplet. So I'm going to choose my red pen. I'm going to give it a little bit of a thickness here, and I'm going to mark off my quatrains and couplets. So let's take a look. A quatrain, we know, has how many lines? Good, it has 4 lines. So we're going to mark off that first quatrain of 4 lines. So here we go. We've got quatrain 1. And quatrain 1 is going to kind of help us to break down the rhythm and rhyme scheme later. So in the next 4 lines, we've got quatrain 2. We're just going to label that on the side. There is our last quatrain, quatrain 3. And finally, we have our couplet. So this is going to help us to better access the rhyme scheme. So I'm going to change my pen color, and we're going to explore the rhyme scheme in particular. So when I'm looking at the first quatrain, I take a look at all of the lines. Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Thou art more lovely and more temperate. Rough winds do shake the darling buds of May, and summer's leaf hath all too short a date. So let's look at those last words to see if we can find our rhyme scheme. Day, temperate, May, date. So the first end line always gets the letter A. Now we want to explore the second line. Does temperate and day rhyme? No, they don't. So we're going to give temperate its own line. It's going to get a B. Now, when we take a look at the third one, May and day match up, so it gets the same letter. And then we're left with date. Date and temperate. Do those rhyme? Not really. However, we're still going to give it a B, and we're going to give it a B for a very distinct reason. I'm going to actually give you a definition here. And this definition here at the bottom is called slant rhyme. Now, a slant rhyme is basically a line, words that may not actually rhyme, but they're close enough in structure that we actually consider them to be rhyming. So let's take down this definition. Now, having this similar structure is important because this allows us to say, you know what, Shakespeare, it's okay. You're pretty close there. So if we take a look with our highlighter, take a look at temperate. It ends with this A-T-E. And date ends with this A-T-E. Even though they're actually pronounced differently, temperate, date, that A-T-E is close enough that we actually consider that to be a rhyme. So slant rhymes are very, very important in Shakespearean sonnets. Imagine just how hard it is to come up with this very distinct rhyme scheme, yet still have meaning within your poem. So every once in a while, we let Shakespeare kind of get away with this. And this is part of why I like to look at this poem in particular, because it really helps us with this element. So now it's time to kind of go through the rhyme scheme of the rest of the poem. If we take a look at quatrain 2, shines, dimmed, declines, untrimmed. None of those rhyme with any of the words in quatrain 1, so we start off with their own distinct letter. Shines and declines work together. Dimmed and untrimmed work together. Moving on to the next. Fade, owest, shade, growest. all new words without similar rhymes to the others. So they get the EF, EF. Now we have our last little couplet there, and we know our couplet has that distinct GG rhyme scheme. So C and the. So there we have the rhyme scheme all set up. We've broken down the quatrains and the couplet. We have the rhyme scheme set. And now it's time to take a look at scansion. So scansion is the most complicated part. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to actually go with kind of a thin line. I think I'll go with blue though, just so it stands out a little bit more. And we're going to kind of break this down. So let's look at the first line. Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Now, we need to figure out how many syllables this has. Do you remember how many syllables a poem in Shakespearean sonnet form has? You're right, it has 10 syllables. All right, so we're looking at 10 syllables. And your best way to do this is to go old school, like when you were a little kid. We're going to clap out the syllables. Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? We have 10 syllables there. So those 10 syllables are broken down into that iambic pattern. So in that iambic pattern, we have the unaccented, accented pattern. And that unaccented, accented pattern gives us 5 feet. And remember, think of feet as pairs. So we need to break this down into our 5 feet. So let's take a look. Shall, I. Shall and I are the first 2 syllables. So we're going to mark this as foot number 1. I'm going to put 2 lines on the side and the little number at the bottom. So let's take a look. What's our next pair? Compare. So compare. 2 syllables. I'm going to give it a 2. The 2. Let's mark that as the third. Summer's day. So there are our 5 feet. Now we know, as we said before, that we have an unaccented, accented pattern in 5 feet. So therefore, we're actually going to have to take a look and give those symbols. Now, the nice thing is that we know that Shakespeare is writing in this pattern already, so we know what the pattern's going to look like. But let's take a look at it as if we didn't potentially know that. When you look at shall I, the I has the distinct emphasis, so it fits the pattern perfectly. We've got the U shape for the unaccented syllable, and we've got the dash shape for the accented. So compare. The pair has the more emphasis. The 2, summer's day. Now, writing on your tablet can be a little bit difficult, but this is really what you're going to be doing as you move on through. So let's take a look at the next line here. Thou art more lovely and more temperate. Thou art more lovely and more temperate. Thou art more lovely and more temperate. There we go. We've got our 10 lines. So now we have to break those 10 lines down into our 5 pairs. So thou art more lovely and more temperate. Okay? We give that the 1, the 2, the 3, the 4, and the 5. Now, because we're working on the surface here, we've got a little bit of spacing issue, and that's totally understandable. The better practice we get, the more we'll be able to do this. And actually, next time I'll probably give a little bit more space in between. So you can do the little markings, the U, the I, the U, the dash, U dash, U dash, U dash. So this is the way in which we break down the entirety of the poem. Every once in a while, just like with Slant Rhyme, we're going to notice that he might have an extra syllable or a missing syllable. If that happens, don't freak out. Test it one more time. clap out those syllables. But if there's an extra or one missing, it's just because it's unbelievably hard to write a poem in this very distinct rhythmic quality. So every once in a while, if it happens, it happens. But what I would like you to do right now is I would like you to test the rest of this out on your own version. And then I want you to finish the mapping of the scansion. So remember, the scansion is the mapping of the rhythm of the poem. So that's the feet and the unaccented, accented syllables. I'm going to post an answer key basically that has it all posted out for you that you can compare yours to. At this point, take your time, practice a little bit, fill out Sonnet 18 with all of the scansion, and then meet me at the next video. The next video, we're actually going to get into what the poem itself means. Thanks, guys.